Do we really need her? That's the question. That's the question today. Do we really need Kirby back for Scream 7? I don't know the answer to that question. That's what we're going to be talking about today is do I really feel like we need Hayden Kirby Reed back for the 7th installment of the Scream franchise? Now, I cannot even begin to express how excited I was when they announced that Kirby was coming back. I mean, for Scream 6 rather. I caught it. I was in the theater. I caught that reference, that Dead Meat reference of a Woodsboro survivor. I saw that in Scream 5. I'm a big fan of the kill count. I watch all those episodes on Dead Meat's channel. I'm very intact with that. So when I saw that little nugget, I caught it. I was a little confused at first, but I'm like, who else could it be? Who else could they be talking about? Now, that was very helpful for me because when Nev made the decision to not return for Scream 6, I felt like my heart had been ripped out and just stepped on, just stomped and crushed and died. But I stood by her the whole way, completely understood, and overall, I do feel Scream 6 was a good film. It might be my least favorite in the franchise, but it is still a solid film. I love every single movie in the Scream franchise. Absolutely every single one of them. But it's funny because we're coming up on the 13-year anniversary. 13 years on April 15th, 2011 was my first theatrical experience for Scream. Scream 4. I was super excited for that. I mean, I was just like, hell yeah, after the remake boom had pretty much taken over the horror world at that time. I mean, I was not pleased whatsoever with Friday the 13th remake, Elm Street's remake, Rob Zombie's 2 Halloween movies. I was sick to my stomach every single time I left the theater. I couldn't stand it. I mean, throughout my younger years, I snuck into a shit ton of other horror movies that they had remade, from The Hills Have Eyes. I remember sneaking into Black Christmas in '06 and just shit like that. It was just stuff that I was like, I don't know about this, but I was 18 years old and Scream 4 had hit the scene, and I was just like, oh yes, let's do it. Finally get to see that legendary trio, Nev, Courtney, and David. I was all in for that. I was like, I'm gonna get to see my girl on the big screen. I was so excited. But then came along another character. And my little 18-year-old self was like, who is that? And that was none other than Kirby Reed. I mean, what 18-year-old horror boy would not instantly just be enamored by another girl much closer to his age who was also a horror nerd obsessed with horror movies? Obviously, that was me. And I was just like, oh God, here we go. Oh boy. I mean, I remember the moment in Scream 4 where, she's on the phone there and she's panicking, naming off all those horror movies that had gotten remade in that time frame in the 2000s there. And that was basically Wes Craven just saying, fuck you to Hollywood because they couldn't come up with any real original ideas. They were just rehashing old properties because they couldn't. It wasn't really until The Conjuring that they came up with something really good and fresh and gave us something that we wanted. And it was a couple of years after Scream 4, and The Conjuring reinvented horror again. It was great. But I mean, in that scene when she's, I was just like, oh my gosh, if I could just have one date with this woman. I was freaking out, you know. I was with a couple of buddies, and I was just like, holy shit. So then, you know, when I thought she had died, you know, she took that knife to the gut. I'm like, no, oh, no, 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 no. I was heartbroken, but, you know, it is what it is. And then I saw, you know, in Scream 5, 11 years later, we see that little nugget there where we have a Woodsboro survivor and, you know, Kirby Reed, you know, I got that. And then they announce for Scream 6 that Hayden is back on board and that she's coming back. And seeing the role that she played in that film, in this most recent Scream film, I was pleasantly unsatisfied. I was pretty disappointed. I'll put it that way. She was a rather lackluster FBI agent and she felt stale. She didn't feel like she mattered. She just felt kind of forced. Now, I get it. That movie is more or less supposed to be based around that core four, that the new crop of characters that we got introduced to very well, may I add, in Scream 5. So I get it. It's not going to be Kirby's movie. I get it. But I really felt like she could have been more of an asset to a character like Sam. I really felt like she could have played a much more pivotal role. But I really felt like, honest to God, I really felt like we don't really need you. You're not making the impact that I wanted. You're not, you know, not just because I'm 11 years older, a married man, not because of that, but just because of how, you know, what's the best way to put this? How that younger crop of characters, you know, with how Kirby, Jill, and all them, how they really, and they took over that film in Scream 4, it felt natural. You know, she felt very, very forced in Scream 6. And that's why I'm like, do we really need her in Scream 7? I've also have thought maybe things would have been different if Nev was on board for Scream 6 and we had a moment with Sidney and Kirby together. That could have been totally different if we had something like that. But it was just her on her own. You know, she had Courtney Cox. Otherwise, she didn't know who the hell any of these people were. You know, all these new characters is what it is. It was kind of cool that she showed that scar from the stab. You know, I was all right with that. But I don't want Scream 7 to become swamped, overwhelmingly swamped with more legacy characters. If this movie, they're saying it's going to have a heavily focused thing on Sidney and Mark's children, possibly. You know, where does Kirby fit into that? I don't know. And it's hard for me to say. I don't really feel like we need her. Not because I don't love her, not because she's not one of my favorite all-time characters in horror, but I just don't feel like she fits or is needed in this current story that they're going to be trying to tell. It sucks for me to say that, but you might feel differently, and that's completely fine. And if you do, let me know down in the comments below if you feel any different. Let me know, do you want to see Kirby back? Do you think we need her? Do you think they could introduce somebody else? You never know. Would I be opposed to seeing her back? Absolutely not. Totally fine with it, but I really, honest to God, just don't feel like we need her anymore. It's hard for me to admit that, but it's just the way it is. Well, like I said, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys have any ideas or suspicions for Scream 7. What do you want to see? You know, are you on the stew train? I'm personally not. I haven't been for quite some time. If Matthew Lillard is going to be in this movie somehow, some way, they have to do it absolutely perfectly. There cannot be anything that tarnishes the ending of that first film for me. If that's what you want to see, let me know. If you want to see something completely different, let me know. But I'd be happy to hear what you guys have to say. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Peace out.